Welcome everyone, Kyle Martin here on MIC-TV. It's another edition of Discover Marshalltown, and we are with Marshalltown Mayor Jim Lowrance today. Welcome, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
And I interview the mayor lots and lots of times on the radio, but they're real short interviews, and so we've got to fill a lot of time. So we're going to get in depth. We're going to find out a lot of stuff about the mayor. He and I were talking about this interview off air, maybe a week or so ago when we were trying to get him on here, and he said that there was really not a lot of great biographical information that the people of Marshalltown needed to know. I think there is, so we're going to get right to it. Let's talk a little bit about your family, a little bit, and your upbringing. Where do you come from?
I grew up in northwest Missouri on a farm near a town called Skidmore. It was 400 people. And probably the nearest thing that anybody would recognize would be Maryville, which is a home of Northwest Missouri State Bearcats and my alma mater.
All right.
My father farmed, my mother worked in a grocery store, and I had two sisters. An older sister that was, I think, 16 when I was born, and a sister that's 2 years older than me. So,
okay. Well, what brought you to Iowa? I know you have a background in the banking industry. Yes. You've been in this community for a long, long time. With banking. Is that what brought you here?
No, actually, I was after I got out of college, I was number 19. Back when they had a draft list, I was number 19 on the number scale, and so at that time it was hard to get anybody to hire you if they thought you were likely to be drafted. But I got a job selling men's clothing. For 6 months, got me past Christmas with my wife. We were just newly married, and then went into the military, the U.S. Army, for 3 years. And when I came out, we were living in St. Joseph, Missouri at the time. It's where my wife grew up, and I got a job with the Chamber of Commerce in St. Joseph, and the gentleman that hired me was a native of Marshalltown. Dennis Malsby. He's now a poet, lives in Ames, writes a lot of poetry, is published, and he told me that if I ever had a chance, if I stayed in chamber work, ever had a chance to get a job in Marshalltown, Iowa, that this was a place to go, because you had no money worries at all. John Norris, Bill Fisher, and one other gentleman would just write a check, anything you needed. He apparently had forgotten that those gentlemen had kind of retired, and their companies now had different things to do with their money. They didn't just write a check. They were very supportive, but they didn't just write a check for everything. But I did, when I found an opening for a chief executive officer of the chamber, I applied and was fortunate enough to be hired. So that was in 1979. So we've been here, 36 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after that, did you go into the banking industry? I mean, what led you to that? Because that's what maybe some Marshalltonians would know you as before you became our mayor.
Sure. I was with the chamber here from 79 through 83, and then had just been offered a job in Duluth, Minnesota, and my wife and I were on our way up to accept the job and look for a house, and she told me that I was the only one in the family that wanted to leave. So we turned around, called, and canceled our appointment up there. And a friend of mine, Loris Newroth, called and said that he had just purchased a small popcorn company, Party Pack Popcorn, and asked me if I would be interested in going to work there. And so I went to work there in '83 and worked there through 1990, I think, when the company was sold. And at that time, I was back looking for a job, and there was an opening at the old Brenton Bank, which is now Wells Fargo, and applied for that, and was fortunate enough to get a job fairly quickly. And I think they hired me because I knew all the excuses that people use when they've borrowed money from the bank, and
why? Because you would use them?
Because I'd use them all. Yes, yes. No, that was the gentleman that hired me. That was what he told me. He was laughing at the time, but yeah, it was different sitting on the other side of the desk.
Sure.
Of course.
Sure.
So I worked with Brenton for 10 years, from 1990 through 2000, and then Wells Fargo purchased them in 2000. I worked with Wells Fargo until 2010 and went over to Great Western Bank at that time. A gentleman that had worked with me at Brenton and then again at Wells Fargo had just started in one of the upper management positions at Great Western and asked me if I'd be willing to come over there for a couple of years. So, you know, I think 4 years, I told him, was probably my limit. I'd be getting close to retirement at that point, and that worked into their time schedule, so
yeah,
made that move.
Mayor, it sounds like you can't keep a job.
That's probably true.
No, I don't mean that at all. It sounds like you've had an interesting career, business-wise. You've changed careers a few times. They say what the average person changes careers, you know, 2 or 3 times in a lifetime. And so when you went to school, did you envision yourself in the banking industry?
No, it never entered my mind. As a matter of fact, I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I had no idea what I was going to do when I got out. So the Army was a good training, and the first job of selling men's clothing was good training also, because you know you learn as you go through life that a lot of what you do is sales work, whether it's selling yourself on radio as a broadcaster or selling men's clothing or whatever. It all involves talking to people and relating to them and them relating to you. So it just kind of happened.
Sure.
And no plan, which those people that know me won't be surprised at that. It probably as you do.
No, it doesn't. It does. You know, I think it happens more often than what we think. That people go one direction and life throws you a curveball.
It does.
You know, now and then. Let's talk about your role as mayor. Also, I'm guessing probably not on your original plan for life.
No.
Becoming the mayor of our fine city when you arrived here in the late '70s. It has been, I think, I'm trying to put words in your mouth, rewarding, but you are not going to seek another term?
That's not my plan, no.
Okay. I don't want to.
I don't plan to seek another term. That's correct.
At this point.
Okay. That's correct.
Right, okay.
You know, when I retired for a reason, because you just know when it's time to get out of the game.
Sure.
And I did have a plan when I retired, and that was to spend more time with my grandkids. I don't know about you, but I've felt with my kids growing up, I was working so many hours that you really didn't get to do all the things that you thought you would do with your kids. And so I was looking forward to kicking back and doing more things with grandkids, and I've been able to do a little of that.
Sure. Well, the city needed you. We needed a mayor. You know, after the untimely death of Gene Beach.
Yes.
Bethany Warren was mayor pro tem, I do believe, for a short while. And then you came on board and have filled that spot, I think, fantastically. But in your term, there have been some, you know, city developments. We've had some big developments as far as, well, Randy Wetmore left, the city administrator. Yes. And obviously he was a guiding light and a friend to you. Yes. And our city administrator leaving for Georgia. So you have been in the city administrator search process, and we're finally hopefully getting close to putting that to bed and hiring a new city administrator, and that will help you, no doubt, greatly with city affairs. But the public safety building, which was something near and dear to Randy's heart and
Yes.
and yours as well, we finally are going to get that.
We are.
And talk a little bit about that, because I think that is going to be a huge, huge asset and obviously a cornerstone to our community as far as public safety is concerned. I mean, we're going to have everything we need under one roof.
Yeah. And there was one step in there that we should also mention, and that was Tommy Thompson coming in after Gene passed away.
Sure.
To fill in, and that's the second time Tommy's been asked to come and help out the city, and if there was a reason not to run for the office, it was because I'd have to follow Tommy Thompson, you know, because measuring up to him, that's pretty high bar. And Bob Schubert, who's a city council member, and Joel Greer approached me and asked me if I would run for mayor. And one of the things that they both emphasized was that they and the other members of the council were really dedicated to the idea of getting this new police station, new fire station built. And Bob Schubert told me he'd never agreed with me on much of anything, but I was always respectful about our disagreements, and Bob and I are good friends. So yeah, when I came on, there were a couple of things that I was hoping we'd be able to do. One was to get approval for a police station and a fire station. And the other was to try to work toward getting some new housing starts going, and also to see economic development kind of progress a little bit, working with the MEDIC organization. And the first go-around with the police station didn't go quite as smoothly as we had hoped.
Right, right.
It was already underway. They had a search or an advisory committee already underway when I came on board, and they did a very good job, but the voters had questions about it and defeated that bond issue. And it was really a question of whether we wanted to go back at it again or let time go by for a year or so and then make another run. But you know, the consensus was if we wait a year, that could develop into 2 years, and every year you're going to have a cost increase of 3 or 4%. It's not going to get any less less expensive. And so the council said, let's double down. Let's not go for just the police station. Let's ask for a fire station and a police station, and really explain it this time. Have all the meetings open, so the public knows everything that we're talking about. And so that's what we did. You know, I know there's a lot of conversation about transparency, but this I think was about as transparent a process as you can go through. And ask a neighbor, Paul Peglow, to take on the leadership of that, and just did a fantastic job. Picked people from around the community, all different parts of the city, different occupations, And fortunately, we're successful in getting that passed the second time. Larger amount of money than we'd asked for before. But again, I think Paul and his group presented a great case, and people responded to that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the community, I think they thought about it a little bit more and decided, you know, this is something. I'm not saying they didn't think about it the first go around, but it seemed they rallied a little bit more around the idea the second go round.
Well, and I truly think that that's probably true, but I truly think we did a better job of explaining and making our case. And again, it was all out in the open. I mean, one of the criticisms of the previous time was that people really didn't hear us discussing it because we went into closed sessions and closed the advisory committee meetings, and so we said, okay, we'll open the doors. Anybody that wanted to come could. Not many did, but enough came that the word got out that, hey, this is not a bad deal.
Okay. If we have a little bit of time here before we go to commercial break, let's circle back to your family a little bit. Let's talk about Sylvia, your children, and your grandchildren. Let's just, if we could, just kind of name them off here, because obviously behind every great man there's a great woman, and I've had a chance to meet Sylvia, and I've had her on the radio with me,
yes.
And just a lovely lady.
Thank you. She is, and she is a great lady. You know, it's they always talk about the factor of one. You know, the one person you meet in life that maybe sends you in another direction or points you in the right direction, and I have to tell you that's the case with Sylvia. We met while I was in college, and she was working as the administrative assistant to vice president of advertising or marketing for Big Chief tablets.
Remember
the
sure.
Big Chief
I
tablets?
had them a lot as I was a kid.
Yeah. And you know, I just told her this lie about being dumped by my girlfriend, and would like to ask her out on a date to go to a movie and
a sympathy date.
Oh,
it totally
is.
is.
A little tear. It was great, Kyle. I don't think she believed it, because when I showed up 2 days later at her house, pick her up, she was still living at her parents' house, and when I showed up, she was leaving out the back door. She said to take her sister someplace, but I think she was trying to be gone when I came. So that was the beginning of 45 years, I guess we've been.
All right. Well, we need to take a commercial break before we get to your children. I want to find out more about this date as well. See, I told you we were going to get some dirt on the mayor. That's time. It's time to take a commercial break here. We'll be right back with Discover Marshalltown.
When I was a young girl, my dream was to be a softball player. I had a wicked fastball that shattered the other teams. But when they cut the funding for physical education, I didn't get the chance to play. And my dream struck out. I still get to throw heat for a living, but it's just a little different now. Ah!
Welcome back to Discover Marshalltown. Kyle Martin here, and we're with Marshalltown Mayor Jim Lowrance. And where we left off before we went to commercial, we were finding out about that first date that led to over 40 years of marriage and 2 children. let's get their names, and then we could talk about your grandkids a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of my kids. I've two great kids. Jamie, who is Jamie Hensey now. She married a young man from here in Marshalltown, and they live over in Oxford, Iowa, just outside of Iowa City, and she works for the Iowa City School District. And then I have a son, Christopher, who's here in town, and he and his wife have two children. Jamie and her husband have 3 children, so 5 grandchildren, all girls. Oldest is now a senior at the University of Iowa, and the youngest is here in town, and she's 4 years old.
Wow, it's a wide range.
Wide range, and grandkids are great. They're even better than kids. So.
Well, yeah, you can spoil them and send them
Send
home.
them home. That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about a recent award that you were awarded. You won the Community Impact Award. You were surprised. And obviously honored and humbled. Talk a little bit about that. That was that awarded by the community partnership, the regional partnership?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that's correct. And you're right. It was a complete surprise. I had no idea. I think Randy asked me to go up to the council chambers for some reason. We were supposed to have a meeting, and if we did I had forgotten it already. So he led me up, and was a very it was a very nice award. As I told the group at that time, I didn't think I deserved to be in that group with people like Rex Ryden and others, but I was going to accept the award anyway and keep it. But the people that have received that prior to my receiving it are people that I think just stand out in terms of their leadership and their long-term commitment to the community and their successes in the community. And all the volunteer work that they've done. So it was a very nice award, and I did truly appreciate it. Was truly humbled, and still am. But I do like to show my sister the award, just so she knows what a great brother she had. Boy, somebody thought it was. But.
Well, let's talk about some of your, I guess for lack of a better term, ceremonial duties as a mayor. You get to write proclamations, and you get to honor and welcome our sister city from Japan.
Yes.
I mean, you get to do stuff like that. There's some wonderful ceremonial duties that you get to perform. As mayor, you get to cut ribbons and stuff like that. You want to talk a little bit about some of the different things that you get to do?
Well, when I was elected, my son told me that he had looked online at city code, and that he discovered that I actually had no powers whatsoever. You can't fire anybody, you can't hire anybody, can't spend any money.
It's a little bit like being Queen of England.
Yes, hey, a good comparison. But you do get to, the primary function is serve as the CEO, which means you're the one that signs documents and so forth. You run the city council meetings, and then, as you said, you get the honor and the fun of the ceremonial things, like speaking to the sister city visitors from Japan, which we did back in July, or just people that have guests in their home from another country, and just they want to meet the mayor of the community. And we did that last month, visit a family on the south side who the lady's mother was here from Turkey, and wanted to meet the mayor and pass along her thoughts on the community. And it was such a nice evening. We had dinner, at their house. But then she told how much she liked Marshalltown, what a friendly community it was, what an open community it was. Said Marshalltown was almost like one big park because there weren't a lot of fences separating people, no walls separating backyards and so forth. And just said she'd had such a great time here. And you know, it's nice to hear things like that. But those are the things that are probably the most enjoyable about the job. The meeting of people from different communities and different countries, different walks of life, that you really enjoy and you really remember.
Yeah, and you come and do a radio show with us from time to time at KFJB, and there are from time to time phone calls of people that aren't happy with stuff about the city, and that is maybe a part of your job that you don't like, but you are always willing to take, I have to give you credit, you're always willing to take those phone calls on the air, and I'm guessing that you take them, you know, on your voicemail as well, and you get back to those folks. There are concerns, obviously, yeah, in a city this size or any size.
Yeah, and you know, Kyle, on balance, I have to tell you, there have been very, very few occasions when anyone's been rude or abrasive. Most of them, many of them, just want someone to listen to them, to hear what their problem is, and maybe knowing that, you know, I can't solve it, but maybe there is somebody here at the city that can, and I can get them to them. So we find that a lot with nuisance complaints, that a house in the neighborhood or something where the lawn's not getting mowed or there's trash all over the place, and this has been building up for a while, so they call and they get it off their chest. And then we have Officer Brad Mosseth or Captain Hankin that I can refer those problems to, and those guys go out from the police department and get it resolved. But a lot of times it's just wanting somebody to listen to their problem.
Sure, sure. Let's talk about overseeing the city council a little bit. You know, you get to wield the gavel. Is that something that took you a little, maybe not being as familiar with all the parliamentary procedures and government policies, and I know I'm not, but how long did it take you to get adjusted to overseeing a meeting of city government?
Haven't mastered it yet. You know, you mentioned the late Gene Beach, and Gene knew Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And he ran a council meeting, you know, like clockwork. And my clock's a little slower. We sometimes get off on tangents, and I have been known to call people by the wrong name or to be on the wrong item on the agenda, but we get through them. This council is very good. There's a lot of experience on that council, and you know, it's really been an eye opener for me because you know, there have, I understand from people in the community, there have been councils in the past where everything was, you know, kind of a 7-0 vote, and the impression, I guess, that people drew or tend to draw is that you're just rubber stamping everything. And we've had some good discussions up there, and you know, not always agreeing on things, and you know, sometimes have some tough conversations, but the councilors all leave that evening with all that stuff left on the table.
Yeah.
And they're all friends when they leave. And I think people recognize that, and they see that you are hashing things out and trying to look at all different points
Sure.
of view. So
most definitely. We are almost out of time. Okay, we are indeed out of time.
Pulling the plug on us, they're canceled already.
You know, I would have loved to have gone more in depth about the first date with Sylvia and see how that whole night ended, but we'll have to wait for another show. We've been with Marshalltown Mayor Jim Lowrance today on Discover Marshalltown. And until next time, we hope to see you.